Record collectors, fans of good music, and especially fans of the band, this recording is for you. Now, I've been a fan of the band since my teenage years, which is back before the turn of the century there in the mid 90s. So I'm not quite as old as some of you, but I am starting to get a little bit more gray hairs. Back then, my first exposure to the band was The Last Waltz. I saw the record had so many artists on there that I loved, like Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, just on and on. You know, you guys have seen it. You know who's on there, Eric Clapton. So after I got that, I kind of went down the rabbit hole. Now, at those days, it was all CDs, but by about 2003, 2004, I started an effort to collect records. And since that time, I've got a lot of my favorites. And by the band, I have quite a few records, and I'm going to show them off to you today with a grand finale of the most recent acquisition to my band collection. There are still some out there from the Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks days. And I do have the Rick Danko and Levon Helm albums and Robbie Robertson albums in my shelves today, but I think I'll leave them there because I already have quite a pile. I don't want to spend too much time on each one because I think everybody knows about these records. So let me make a little bit of space behind me here. Let's start out with this one here. Music from Big Pink. I believe this is a special edition Pink version. Followed by an early release. I'm not sure if that's a first press or not, but it's early. That's probably the first one of those I ever had. And then they started with these super deluxe editions, and there's varying opinions on these, but I'll tell you that I really love the quality of these releases. I will tell you also that I probably paid too much money for a lot of these because I'm a FOMO kind of guy, and when I heard they were going to be releasing, I bought them on day one. I didn't wait to see how far they'd go down in price. So I'm happy to have plenty of Pink. And then my favorite album by the band is right here, the Brown album, as they call it, the first reveal of these guys. So many great songs on here. You know them, you love them. Rag Mama Rag, Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, Up on Cripple Creek, King Harvest, one of my favorites. You know, front to back, I don't think there's a bad song on this album, but you know, Robbie Robertson has got a lot of my money over the time. There's the Super Deluxe. Happy to have that one. Then you move over to Cahoots, the Super Deluxe version. Now, some of these I don't have multiple old copies of, but I do have that band box set with all the pre-Last Waltz albums in it, including this one's in there too. But this is a early press of Rock of Ages. And then we have Bob Dylan and the band Before the Flood. We got Stage Fright, another great album. And then the Super Deluxe on that, which was the last one of these to come out. I'd love to see him keep going. Who knows how that'll go now that Robbie's passed on. He seemed to be the guy that was working to maintain the legacy of the band. But Garth is still out there, but I don't think he's in very good health. But plenty of good records out there still to be pressed. Another Moondog Matinee. And then Northern Lights, Southern Cross, which, you know, this was the last one of the era before the Last Waltz to come out. And a lot of people would say this isn't a great album or whatever, but it makes no difference on it. That's a great song. It has Ophelia on it. Acadian Driftwood. So many good songs on there. Of course, everybody's favorite, The Last Waltz. This is a release from, I think, about 10 years ago. And then just this October from 2023, they did the Rhino Rocktober release. And, of course, I had to pick one of those up. Who was it? Overseen by Robbie Robertson. And I think it was cut by Bellman or Gray. I can't remember on that one. And then, of course, another copy of The Last Waltz. How many of those does one person need? One from the Dollar Bin from years past. That's Anthology Volume 2. I don't have Volume 1. I guess that's one I'll have to get one of these days. A few bootleg European copies, probably from radio captures. This one's from the Syria Mosque in Pittsburgh, a famous venue up there, 1970. And then we have this one, 1976, right before the last waltz, in Washington, D.C. And then probably my favorite of the three of those is live in Charleston, 1994. I am a proud West Virginian, and this is right here on our mountain stage, so I'm happy to have that too. And of course, we also have the big box set with the Capitol albums in it. This has, these are the ones that are just all minty fresh. Anytime I want to hear one of these albums, you can. Islands is in there. That's one I haven't shown you yet. But then there's the CD box sets. I have the old I think it's the 25th anniversary 4LP that has all of the Last Waltz on it. Then there's the Across the Great Divide box set. The Academy of Music. This came out probably right about the same time that records started getting popular again, but I don't think it was released on vinyl. This is all the stuff that they did for one of the albums. Which one am I thinking of? But it's the whole time. Yeah, Rock of Ages, of course. And then, of course, the anthology set, A Musical History, all kinds of deep cuts. But I show you all those albums to get to this point. If you look through all those albums and you think, okay, well, what's left? Of course, there's the Ronnie Hawkins stuff that I could look for, and there's probably some guest spots with the Cape Brothers and other things that they've been on. The Ringo Starr All-Star Band might have some bootleg type stuff out there. But the only other official band record release that I don't own is this one right here. And that's the band Jubilation. This was their last studio album. And it seems to me like somewhere along the line it was decided that if it happened after the Last Waltz, it wasn't important. And I never agreed with that. I think there's plenty of great music that came from Levon and Rick and all the guys after the Last Waltz. I've always kind of had a little bit of a bone to pick with Robbie for that. I mean, he's a great songwriter and a driving force of the band, but it's almost like they try to pretend like this stuff didn't happen. Of course, Jericho and High on the Hog were the other two, but they never had a vinyl release. So that brings me to the big reveal from today. It's funny. Very good friends, best friends with another record collector that's a next door neighbor that knows that this is my white whale, which funnily enough, it has a big whale on there. Let's see if I can get a good shot of that. Yep. He knew I was looking for it. He also looks for it. And his name's Ed Davis. He's a fellow fiend on here. And he saw this for sale on eBay, still in the shrink. And he said, you know what? Maybe we will never get the record, but at least we can have it on analog somehow. And here's the cassette. And this was just given to me a couple months ago. A really cool thing to have. And I thought, I'll probably never have a copy of this on vinyl. There's one on eBay that's been there for years that the guy wants like $500 for, which it says it's sealed. So who knows? For all we know, it could be cracked or something inside, or it gets damaged in shipping. That's an awful lot of money to pay for one record. And, I like this album. There's several great songs on here, but certainly not my favorite band record. If I could choose one of those post-waltz albums to have, it would be Jericho. I think most people would agree with that, but it's not a bad album. Kentucky Downpour on here is great. Book Faded Brown, High Cotton, White Cadillac's good on here. You can look up the track list if you want to. There's several great songs on here. And to know that this was the last album that they did together without Robbie, but before Rick died, and it wasn't too long after this that Levon was gone too. Happy to say that I got to see him before he passed on. But today, in the mail, sent to me by another record collector and fan of Levon and the band, a guy named Ed Hand. So back on March 4th, he sends me a message and he says, "Hey Josh, I happen to see you posting in Heady Wax Fiends about your desire for the band's Jubilation on vinyl. And it just so happens that I was poking around on eBay the other day and I saw one on there for cheaper than I had seen it for quite some time. So I picked it up. I'm happy to keep it, but if you would like it, I'd be more than happy to send it to you for what I paid for it." And I'm intrigued. I say, well, heck yeah, I'd love to do this. Let's do it. So he's showing me, he'll tell me when it comes in the mail. He comes in the mail. He's showing me some videos. And I don't know, Ed. He seems like a nice guy, but the internet's a wild place. So I was always taught if it looks too good to be true, it maybe is. So use caution. So I tell myself, you know what? Maybe I should do this with the goods and services just to protect myself a little bit. I bring it up to him. He says, no need to worry. I tell you what I'll do. You give me your address. I'll send you the record in the mail. You can get it. You can play it. If you like it, you can pay me for it then. I'm thinking, wow, that's a pretty safe way to do business with somebody on the internet, and that's a lot of trust from somebody that I don't know. So I say, okay, that sounds great. Well, today on the porch it came. And I will say that the record's probably VG shape. It's, I guess that means that I could keep an eye out for a mint copy someday, but it sounds just fine to my ear. And in my hands, I have my White Whale. The band collection of official record releases as of today is complete. And you might say, well, what about the basement tapes? Well, that's in the Bob Dylan section, guys. But anyhow, in my hand, the band Jubilation is now part of my collection. And any band, Levon, Rick Danko, Richard Manuel, all those guys, any fan of those guys knows that there'll be another release at some point, and I will be right there to buy it. But for now, I have it, guys. I have, thanks to Ed Hand, Heady Wax Fiend member, generally all-around good guy, I have my holy grail, my White Whale of the band collection. So what does that say about the Heady Wax Fiends? It says that there's some awesome people in here. It also says it pays to let people know what your White Whale is. They will look for you. I even had somebody about a month or two ago said, hey, they're having an auction tonight where they said they have a copy of this. Go ahead and, if you need one, go ahead and get on there. I appreciated that too, but at the time it was just a little bit too rich for my blood. I couldn't bring myself to pay that much money for it. But now I have a copy. What will be next? Will it be Jericho? Will it be High on the Hog? I sure hope so. Anyhow, I appreciate you guys. This has been a big day in my record collecting journey. I'm going to go ahead and get off here and enjoy the record a little bit more. I'm about halfway through the B-side on this. Sounds great so far. We've got a busy couple of days here in my house. My daughter Jada just placed second in the regional social studies fair on a project all about records. So how about that? Good for her as well. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, keep on spinning those records. And I would love to hear any stories similar to mine that you'd prefer to share. So thanks a lot.